What's your favorite dirty joke? What's the best thing about fingering a gypsy on her period? You get your palm read for free. A guy is sitting at the doctor's office. The doctor walks in. Sir, I have some bad news. I'm afraid you're going to have to stop masturbating. Patient, I don't understand. Doc, why? Doctor, because I'm trying to examine you. What did Cinderella do when she got to the ball? She gagged. Why does Dr. Pepper come in a can? Because his wife died. Sean had been burned to death and the Undertaker was struggling to find out if it really was Sean, so he asked his friends Patty and Dean. Patty was asked in first and said roll him over. The Undertaker looked puzzled but did so, and Patty said nah, it's not him. So the Undertaker calls and Dean, who again asks roll him over. So he does, and again nah, that's not Sean. The Undertaker, very confused, asks how they know it's not him and why do they keep asking to roll him over. Patty replies because everywhere we went with Sean people would always say there's the guy with the 2 arseholes. 3 tampons are sitting at a bus stop. What do they say to each other? Nothing. They are stuck-up cunts. What's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? I've never had a lentil on my chest. What's the worst part about going down on your grandmother? Banging your head on the lid of the coffin. Why do all the women love Jesus? Because he was hung like this, holds arms out to each side. 2 brothers, one a few years older than the other, live together and share a room. The older brother, as it always goes, gets the top bunk of their bunk bed, and the younger brother gets bottom. This made sexual encounters for the older brother rather difficult. One night, the older brother is sneaking in a lady after a night out, and he says to her, "We can't be too loud. But more importantly, we can't be too obvious. So if you want it harder, say tomato. If you want it softer, say lettuce." As they do the deed, the younger brother wakes up to the bunks creaking, and he could faintly hear lettuce, tomato, lettuce, tomato. The younger brother, slightly annoyed, bangs on the bottom bunk and says, "You guys, stop making sandwiches. You're getting mayonnaise all over my bunk." Little girl is at her grandma and grandpa's house one day. She goes outside to play and gets dirty. Her grandma is there and says, "Come inside. We have to get you clean before your mother gets here to pick you up." They go upstairs, and in a shower the little girl asks, "Grandma, what are those?" "Those are tits." The grandma answers, "When will I get those?" "In a couple of years." The next day, the little girl goes to her grandma and grandpa's house. She goes outside to play and gets dirty. Her grandpa is there and says, "Come inside. We have to get you clean before your mother gets here to pick you up." They go upstairs, and in a shower the little girl asks, "Grandpa, what is that?" "That is a dick." The grandpa answers, "When will I get one?" "In about 20 minutes, when your grandma goes to bingo." A woman walks into a bar and asks the bartender for a double entendre. So he gives it to her. There were 3 ducks swimming in a pond one night after midnight and got arrested for trespassing. They were called to appear in court the next day, so the judge called up duck number 1 and asked, "What were you doing in a pond swimming after midnight?" The duck said, "Blowing bubbles." So then the judge called up duck number 2 and asked the same question, and the duck said, "Blowing bubbles." Then the judge called up duck number 3 and said, "Let me guess, you were blowing bubbles too?" And the duck said, "No, I am bubbles." Q. What's the difference between a policeman's baton and a magician's wand? A. The wand is used for cunning stunts. My boyfriend and I both work at a pirate dinner theater, and he bestowed upon me his best joke. Why does a mermaid wear seashells? Pause. Because she outgrew her bee shells. Why are vaginas vertical instead of horizontal? If they were horizontal, when girls go down a slide it would go TTHHBBBLPPTTT. The other day I was tickling my baby brother's foot when my mom said, "Son, you could wait till he's born." If women drink a glass of red wine, it increases the chance of a stroke. If she drinks the whole bottle, She might even give it a little suck. So I was going down on my grandma the other night, and I tasted horse semen. I stopped for a second and thought to myself, oh, is this how she died? Did you know Monica Lewinsky is a Republican now? The Democrats left a bad taste in her mouth. How do you know civil engineers didn't design the female anatomy? Because the sewer system and the playground are right next to each other. One evening, a drunk man with a glass eye passed out in his bed after removing the eye and putting it in a glass of water on his nightstand. He awoke in the middle of the night with a terrible thirst, gulped the glass of water as fast as he could, and fell back asleep. In the following days he became constipated. So he paid a visit to his doctor. After a quick look, the doctor says, "Sir, in all my years of staring into people's assholes, this is the first time I have ever had one stare back at me. I hooked up with this girl one time and she told me to give her 12 inches and make it hurt. So I ducked her twice and punched her in the face." 2 out of 3 Americans live next to a pedophile. Not me. I live next to 2 smoking hot 6-year-olds. A penguin is driving down the highway and suddenly there's a loud noise and steam coming out of his engine. So he pulls over at the next gas station and leaves the car with a mechanic. Overwhelmed by the summer heat, he goes into the shop next door and heads to the freezer section. After gorging himself on ice cream to cool off, he heads back to the mechanic to see what the problem was. The mechanic looks up from his stool and says, "It looks like you've blown a seal. No. I swear it's just ice cream. I was talking to my Muslim neighbor the other day and asked him, with both your wife and your teenage daughter wearing their burqas, doesn't it get confusing?" He says, "Yeah. Don't tell me about it. Just last night I went upstairs and accidentally ducked my wife. Okay. Please forgive me for this one. My mate's raging with me. He caught me wanking while sniffing his sister's knickers today. She was still wearing them at the time. It made the rest of her funeral very awkward for both of us." 2 Eskimos, a big one and a little one, go to the convent with a question. The big one nudges the little one and says, "Go ahead. Knock on the door. Knock on the door." The Mother Superior answers the door. Again. The big Eskimo nudges the little one and says, "Go ahead. Ask her the question. Ask her the question." The little Eskimo timidly says, "May we speak with the midget nun that lives here, please?" The Mother Superior answers, "There are no midget nuns living here." The big Eskimo starts nudging the little one again and says, "Go ahead. Ask her the other question. Ask her the other question." The little Eskimo asks in a quivering voice, "Well, are there any midget nuns in Alaska?" The Mother Superior responds uncertainly, "I know of most of the nuns in Alaska and I don't think so." With this, the big Eskimo falls down and rolls on the ground, clutching his belly as he laughs uncontrollably. "See," he says to the little Eskimo, "I told you you screwed a penguin." A bush ranger is roaming the outback on his horse and sees a snake in his path. Rather than kill the snake, as most people would, he got a stick and carefully moved it out of the way. When it was set down, the snake looked at him and said, "Thank you, stranger. Most people would not be so kind. I am a wizard cursed to live as a snake, and for sparing my life I grant you 3 wishes." The bush ranger pondered for a moment before coming to a decision. "I wish for a face like Brad Pitt, a body like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and to be hung like this here horse I'm riding." The snake said, "Go home and look in the mirror. Your wishes shall be granted." The bush ranger thanked the snake and set off home, excited to see the results. Sure enough, when he looked in the mirror he saw a face like Brad Pitt and a body like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Excited, he stripped bare. "Ah, duck. I took out the mare." And God looked down upon creation and said, "Wow. My masturbation ritual has gotten way too complicated." A man walks up to the drop-off counter at a pharmacy. "I need birth control pills for my wife and daughter." He says, "Okay." The technician retorts, "But I'm required by law to ask, how old is your daughter?" "Oh, she's 12. The man replies. The technician is stunned. Your 12-year-old daughter is sexually active. The man shrugs and says, well, she's not really active per se. She just kinda lies there the whole time.